Top business leaders and tech masterminds, they're all gathering right here in New York today for the annual TechCrunch Disrupt Conference. Our very own Jolene Kent is there with a big interview. Retired General Michael Hayden, the former director of the NSA and the author of the new book, Playing to the Edge, American Intelligence in the Age of Terror. Joe.
Trish, thank you so much. General Hayden is the only person still to have had both the CIA and the NSA. Thank you for joining us today.
Joe.
You side in the privacy versus security debate with Apple, and yet today you are here with lots of privacy advocates.
Yeah.
How has the reception been, and where do we stand right now in this debate?
Well, I do side with Apple, but I don't see the issue as privacy versus security. I side with Apple on security grounds. All right? I actually think that America is a more secure nation the better our encryption is. And so when, for Joe, really legitimate counterterrorism or countercriminal reasons over here, you want to tell Apple to weaken something that otherwise would be stronger encryption, and I don't care how you argue it, that's where you get to. I actually think you're trading off one form of security for another, and I actually think right now it's a bad trade. The greatest future threat to American security is in the cyber domain. So you need to be really careful weakening cybersecurity even for legitimate, immediate security questions over here.
Now, does that mean that you think the FBI's payment of 7 figures for a hacking into the San Bernardino iPhone was wrong?
Well, look, these are complicated questions. In my book that you mentioned, I say this is a sea of gray. There's no black, there's no white, all right? But there is a dark side to the government paying someone for fundamentally something that acts like a 0 day. All right? Something that didn't exist before, that you've asked someone to create in order for you to bust through what would otherwise be a tougher encryption system to bust. And there's a downside to that, even when it's done for the purest of motives.
Now, what do you think going forward? Who should govern this encryption debate and its policies? Should it be set by Congress, proposed and voted on, or should it be litigated in the court?
Yeah. So number one, it should be Congress, because right now the FBI is basing their request on a law written in 1789. And
the All Writs Act.
Right. And we're trying to pretend we know how that applies today. So if Congress has a will, Congress should express its will on this question. But, you know, I was on an interview with the former commissioner of police here, Ray Kelly. And it was naturally assumed Ray would come down hard on the side of FBI. And Ray was like me.
That's
he was saying, you know, this is a tough question. Let's be careful here. And Ray thinks, and I think, Congress should look at this one long and hard before they take a position. Don't rush into this. You've got to live with the consequences either way.
Now, we know that the Chinese are a huge cyber threat against the United States. Now we have 2 presumptive nominees, Trump and Clinton. Who has the better cybersecurity policy and encryption policy for the average taxpayer?
I have not heard of a cybersecurity or an encryption policy from either candidate.
So you're unsatisfied.
So I just have no idea what, if anything, either candidate would do differently than what President Obama has already tried to do.
All right. Well, I know Trish, our anchor, has a couple of questions. Trish?
Thanks, Joe. You know, I think that we have seen a real, sea change in terms of so much over the last several years has increasingly become online, and terrorists are recruiting online, meeting on Twitter, meeting on Facebook, and then moving off-site. How do you think about this, General, when you know that there is this opportunity for them to connect, and they're doing so through American companies, our platforms, our technology that we have created? Do these companies have a responsibility to stop it?
Well, Trish, first of all, it's not just American companies that are providing this technology. If America was out of this business altogether, there's still a bunch of global companies who provide this, and frankly, terrorists are using that. Trish, here's my bottom line. All right? There is, in my view, an unbreakable, unavoidable arc of technology in the direction of tougher and tougher to break encryption. The ability of law enforcement and intelligence to retrieve the content of even intercepted communications is just going to get more and more narrow. My advice is you can't stop that. But it doesn't mean you can't do electronic surveillance. there are other tools out there. Even when you can't get the content of an email, so to speak, there is so much digital exhaust being put out there by legitimate intelligence targets. We simply need to turn our focus to those other collection opportunities because, Trish, unavoidably, content is going to get harder and harder to retrieve.
You're asking the government to be 5 steps ahead then and maybe come up with some kind of surveillance product that they could use on Twitter, on Facebook, on every other platform internationally as well, where terrorists may be connecting?
Well, look, these are hard questions, and as much as I get applauded by civil libertarians by siding with good encryption and Apple, when I say now the solution, because you can't get the content, might be metadata and bulk collection, those same civil libertarians begin to quake a little bit. But those are the kinds of choices that we're simply going to have to make. And Trish, we're going to have to make them. Content is just going to get harder and harder to get.
You're right, General. It's a very important conversation, and I'm glad we're having it. Thank you so much, sir. Good to see you and Joe.